vicinity of Second Thomas Shoal and observing all activities between Filipino.
What does it say about a country's future at sea when its Navy stops buying hand-me-downs and starts commissioning brand new warships by the dozen? For the Philippines, the answer is clear. It signals a decisive break from decades of naval vulnerability and the beginning of a serious maritime power transition. With South Korea set to deliver 12 modern warships, Manila is no longer just talking about naval modernization. It is executing it, ship by ship, hull by hull. This moment did not arrive overnight. For years, the Philippine Navy operated aging vessels acquired secondhand from allies, platforms designed for constabulary roles rather than high-end maritime deterrence. The difference today is stark. South Korea's HD Hyundai Heavy Industries is delivering new-build frigates and offshore patrol vessels, equipped with modern sensors, combat management systems, and endurance suitable for extended operations in contested waters. It is the difference between patching an old car to keep it running and driving a factory-fresh vehicle built for the highway ahead. As one defense expert put it bluntly, shifting from second-hand to new ships is essential in any modern navy. Regionally, this upgrade places the Philippines on a new comparative footing. Vietnam began its naval leap with Russian-built Kilo-class submarines. Indonesia invested early in South Korean shipbuilding partnerships of its own. Even Malaysia has steadily expanded its surface fleet with modern designs. For years, Manila lagged behind, strategically exposed despite sitting at the center of vital sea lanes. The South Korea-Philippines shipbuilding partnership now closes that gap. While the Philippine Navy will not match its neighbors ship for ship, it is finally moving into the same technological generation, which matters far more in modern maritime warfare. The strategic implications extend beyond national pride or fleet numbers. 12 new warships dramatically expand the Philippines' blue water reach, patrol persistence, and ability to operate alongside allies in the West Philippine Sea and wider Indo-Pacific. At a time when maritime tensions are rising and naval power is the currency of credibility, South Korea's deliveries are not just steel and electronics, they are strategic reassurance. In the Indo-Pacific's unfolding naval competition, the Philippines is no longer watching from the sidelines. It is finally showing up to the fight with ships built for the future. For decades, the Philippine Navy's operational reality lagged far behind its strategic geography. Despite sitting astride some of the world's most contested and commercially vital sea lanes, the fleet was largely composed of aging patrol craft and legacy vessels optimized for coastal security rather than modern naval warfare. Many platforms in service well into the 2000s were already decades old, with limited sensors, minimal air defense capability, and little capacity to operate for extended periods at sea. As one former Philippine Navy flag officer candidly admitted, "For a long time our ships could sail, but they could not fight." The mismatch between missions and capabilities became increasingly untenable. The Philippines is responsible for an exclusive economic zone covering approximately 2.2 million square kilometers, one of the largest maritime jurisdictions in Southeast Asia. Yet for years, the Navy lacked sufficient hull numbers, endurance, and maritime domain awareness to police it effectively. Persistent challenges range from territorial disputes in the West Philippine Sea, particularly involving overlapping claims with China, to chronic non-traditional security threats such as illegal fishing, fuel smuggling, piracy, and transnational crime. According to Philippine government estimates, illegal, unreported, and unregulated fishing alone costs the country tens of billions of pesos annually, directly undermining food security and coastal livelihoods. Beyond security enforcement, the Navy also carries an outsized humanitarian burden. The Philippines experiences an average of 20 tropical cyclones per year, several of them severe, alongside frequent earthquakes and maritime emergencies. Naval assets are often the first and last responders, delivering relief supplies, evacuating civilians, and restoring access to isolated islands. However, limited sea lift capacity and aging hulls constrained response speed and sustainability. As the Department of National Defense has repeatedly emphasized, disaster response is not a secondary mission for the Philippine Navy. It is a core operational requirement. These cumulative pressures gave rise to a fundamental reassessment of naval force structure under the horizon phases of the Armed Forces of the Philippines Modernization Program. Rather than simply replacing old ships one for one, the objective shifted toward building a credible, multi-mission navy capable of peacetime constabulary operations, disaster response, and critically, credible deterrence against peer and near-peer naval forces. The emphasis on new-build combatants with modern sensors, command and control systems, and interoperability with allies reflects a strategic understanding that maritime security today is inseparable from national sovereignty. In this context, naval modernization is no longer framed as a luxury or prestige project, but as a strategic necessity. As one senior defense official summarized the shift, "You cannot defend an archipelago with ships designed only to patrol it. You need platforms that can stay at sea, see farther, and operate with partners." The Philippines' turn toward modern frigates and offshore patrol vessels is thus not merely about filling gaps. It is about aligning naval power with the realities of a contested maritime environment in the Indo-Pacific. South Korea's emergence as a key defense partner to the Philippines reflects a much broader transformation in Seoul's global posture, from a once inward-focused arms producer to a confident, outward-looking defense exporter competing with long-established European and US firms. Over the past decade, South Korea has rapidly climbed into the ranks of the world's top arms exporters, with Stockholm International Peace Research Institute, SIPRI, data consistently placing it among the top 10 global defense exporters. Naval shipbuilding in particular has become one of Seoul's strongest calling cards, combining advanced technology, competitive pricing, and on-time delivery, an area where even traditional Western yards have struggled. At the center of this rise is HD Hyundai Heavy Industries, HHI, one of the largest shipbuilders in the world by tonnage, and a cornerstone of South Korea's defense industrial base. HHI's portfolio spans everything from commercial supertankers to advanced naval combatants, giving it a scale advantage few competitors can match. For Manila, this mattered. HHI did not merely offer ships, it offered a full package: new-build warships, integrated combat systems, training pipelines, and long-term sustainment support. As a Philippine defense official noted during one contract signing, "Korea offered modern ships that met our requirements, within our budget, and on a timeline we could trust." In an era where delays and cost overruns plague defense procurement globally, that reliability proved decisive. Seoul's motivations extend beyond commercial gain. Strategically, South Korea views defense partnerships in Southeast Asia as a means of deepening ties with ASEAN states, while quietly reinforcing a rules-based maritime order. Although not a claimant in the South China Sea, South Korea is a major trading nation whose energy supplies and exports transit these waters. Stability, freedom of navigation, and predictable maritime norms are therefore not abstract principles for Seoul. They are core national interests. By enabling partners like the Philippines to better patrol and defend their maritime domains, South Korea strengthens regional resilience without deploying its own forces or provoking overt escalation. Equally important is industrial logic. Defense exports allow South Korea to sustain production lines, spread research and development costs, and continuously upgrade its platforms through operational feedback from overseas users. Follow-on support, upgrades, and future acquisitions create long-term defense relationships rather than one-off sales. As South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol stated in outlining Seoul's defense export strategy, arms cooperation today is about partnership, not transactions. The Philippine Navy's growing fleet of Korean-built vessels exemplifies this model, binding both countries into a durable strategic and industrial relationship. South Korea's role in Philippine naval modernization is emblematic of a larger shift in the Indo-Pacific defense market. Where Southeast Asian states once depended almost exclusively on Western suppliers, they now have credible alternatives that combine quality, affordability, and strategic alignment. For Manila, South Korea is not simply a shipbuilder, it is a strategic enabler. And for Seoul, the Philippines is not just a customer, but proof that South Korea has arrived as a serious global defense partner. The significance of the 12 warships delivered by South Korea lies not just in their number, but in what they represent collectively. A layered, modern surface fleet built for real-world missions rather than symbolic presence. For the first time in its history, the Philippine Navy is fielding a coherent mix of frigates and offshore patrol vessels designed from the keel up for blue water operations, maritime security, and sustained presence in contested waters. Each class plays a distinct role, but together they form the backbone of a modern naval force. The foundation of this transformation was laid by the Jose Rizal class frigates, the first true modern combatants acquired by the Philippines. When they entered service earlier in the Modernization program, they immediately reset expectations of what the Philippine Navy could do at sea. Equipped with modern radar systems, combat management software, and guided missile capability, these ships enabled longer deployments, better situational awareness, and credible participation in multinational naval exercises. More importantly, they established a baseline, demonstrating that the Philippines could operate and sustain complex warships, not just patrol craft. Building on that foundation, the Miguel Malvar-class frigates represent a qualitative leap forward. The lead ship, BRP Miguel Malvar, FFG-06, was delivered in April 2025 and subsequently commissioned into active service, followed by BRP Diego Salang, FFG-07, commissioned on 2 December 2025. Displacing roughly 3,200 tons, these frigates are significantly more capable than their predecessors. Their defining feature is the inclusion of a vertical launch system, VLS, allowing the deployment of surface-to-air missiles alongside anti-ship and anti-submarine weapons. In practical terms, this gives the Philippine Navy something it previously lacked: layered air defense and the ability to protect not just itself, but nearby vessels during operations. As one naval analyst observed, a VLS-equipped frigate changes how a navy thinks about survivability. It stops being reactive and starts shaping the battle space. Complementing the high-end combatants are the Raja Suleiman-class offshore patrol vessels, OPVs, 6 of which are being built based on the HDP 2200+ design. The arrival of the lead ship, BRP Raja Suleiman, PS-20, in early 2026, escorted symbolically by BRP Jose Rizal, showed how these vessels fit into the wider fleet architecture. At around 2,400 tons, these OPVs are optimized for endurance rather than heavy combat. They are tailored for EEZ patrols, maritime law enforcement, search and rescue, and disaster response, missions that dominate day-to-day naval operations in an archipelagic state. Their modular design allows for flexible payloads, making them ideal workhorses that free up frigates for higher-end deterrence tasks. Beyond the ships already delivered or in service, Manila has also committed to future sustainability. The Philippines is acquiring 2 additional frigates similar to the Miguel Malvar class under a contract valued at approximately 34 billion pesos, around $585 million. This decision reflects a shift away from ad hoc procurement toward fleet commonality, simplifying training, logistics, and maintenance while extending operational reach. Rather than a one-off modernization burst, the Navy is clearly planning for continuity. These 12 warships mark a structural change in Philippine naval power. The fleet now has credible combatants, persistent patrol platforms, and a pathway for long-term sustainment. It is no longer a Navy built only to show the flag or respond after crises strike. It is increasingly a Navy designed to stay at sea, deter pressure, and operate alongside allies in a contested Indo-Pacific maritime environment. The arrival of modern guided missile frigates alongside long-range patrol vessels fundamentally alters how the Philippine Navy shows up at sea. Where presence once meant brief patrols close to shore, it now means sustained visibility across territorial waters, the exclusive economic zone, and critical approaches beyond it. Frigates provide the deterrent edge, armed, sensor-rich, and survivable, while offshore patrol vessels ensure persistence, freeing high-end combatants from routine constabulary duties. Together, they allow Manila to maintain a credible maritime posture without exhausting its most capable assets. Presence, in this sense, becomes continuous rather than symbolic. Deterrence follows naturally from this shift. Modern warships do not need to fire a shot to change behavior. Their very deployment alters risk calculations.
The ability to operate farther from home ports,
Remain on station longer, and defend themselves against air and surface threats complicates any attempt to coerce or intimidate Philippine forces at sea. As one regional security analyst noted, deterrence is not about matching an adversary ship for ship, it's about making harassment costly and escalation uncertain. The Philippine Navy's new fleet does precisely that, reinforcing sovereignty claims through capability rather than rhetoric.
The vicinity immediately. Over. Chinese warship 629, Chinese warship 629. This is Philippine Navy warship 16.
Equally important is the improvement in interoperability with allied navies. The new ships are equipped with modern combat management systems, standardized communications, and NATO-compatible procedures, enabling seamless participation in joint patrols, exercises, and maritime security operations with partners such as the United States, Japan, Australia, and South Korea. This matters strategically. In today's Indo-Pacific, deterrence is increasingly collective, and navies that cannot plug into allied networks risk operating in isolation.
the Philippine Navy's modernization ensures it is not merely present, but connected. Beyond hardware, the strategic impact runs deep into the institution itself. Introducing advanced sensors, missile systems, and integrated command and control architectures forces changes in training, doctrine, and professional specialization. Sailors and officers must now master air defense coordination, anti-submarine warfare, electronic warfare, and networked operations, skills that define modern naval professionalism. This drives a shift away from generalist seamanship towards specialized career tracks, raising overall force competence and retention. Over time, these professional and technological advancements compound. New doctrines emerge, maintenance cultures mature, and operational confidence grows. The Navy moves from reacting to events towards shaping the maritime environment.
In strategic terms, this is the most durable impact of modernization. Not just better ships today, but a force increasingly capable of learning, adapting, and sustaining maritime power in the long run. The modernization of the Philippine Navy carries implications that extend well beyond national waters. A more capable Philippine fleet strengthens the broader, rules-based maritime order that underpins stability in the Indo-Pacific, particularly in heavily trafficked and contested sea lanes. By improving its ability to patrol, monitor, and remain present in the West Philippine Sea, Manila reinforces the principle that maritime disputes should be managed through law, norms, and sustained presence rather than coercion. In this sense, naval capability becomes a stabilizing force, not because it seeks confrontation, but because it raises the threshold for unilateral pressure.
These developments also align closely with the security objectives of ASEAN states and extra-regional partners that champion freedom of navigation and overflight. The Philippine Navy's expanding role in joint exercises, workshops, and operational engagements with the United States, Japan, Australia, and other partners enhances collective maritime awareness and crisis management. Rather than acting as a frontline escalator, the Philippines increasingly functions as a capable node within a wider security network, helping preserve strategic balance at a time when regional tensions are rising, but still manageable through cooperation. Beyond strategy, the warship program has become a pillar of defense diplomacy between Seoul and Manila. What began as procurement has evolved into a deeper, institutional relationship encompassing training, sustainment, and long-term industrial cooperation. For South Korea, the Philippines represents a reliable partner that validates its defense export model. For Manila, South Korea offers not just hardware, but a pathway to professionalization and industrial learning. The potential for technology transfer, logistics cooperation, and local sustainment infrastructure carries meaningful economic implications. HD Hyundai Heavy Industries has supported maintenance and logistics operations and established support mechanisms that point toward long-term presence rather than transactional sales.
Over time, this opens space for skills development, local employment, and integration into regional defense supply chains.
In an era where defense spending is increasingly scrutinized, these secondary economic benefits help justify modernization as an investment rather than a sunk cost. Modern ships, however, bring modern demands. Operating sophisticated combat systems requires a parallel expansion in training pipelines, manpower development, and technical specialization. The Philippine Navy must scale its human capital to ensure that advanced platforms are not merely operational, but fully exploited. This includes retaining skilled personnel in a competitive labor market where technical expertise is highly transferable. Budgetary pressures remain another constraint. Acquisition is only the first step. Sustainment, midlife upgrades, and integration with evolving command and control networks demand predictable funding over decades. Integrating new Korean-built platforms with legacy systems also poses logistical and doctrinal challenges, requiring careful alignment across procurement, maintenance, and operational concepts. These are not failures of modernization, but predictable friction points that will determine its long-term success.
Looking ahead, the arrival of these warships is reshaping how the Philippine Navy thinks about doctrine, deterrence, and national defense. The emphasis is shifting toward credible, defensive maritime power, focused on presence, survivability, and alliance interoperability, rather than numerical parity with larger navies. This doctrinal evolution reflects a mature understanding of the Philippines' strategic environment and resource constraints. Importantly, the modernization trajectory does not appear to be stopping at surface combatants. Ongoing discussions around submarine capabilities, enhanced maritime surveillance, and further fleet expansion suggest a long-term vision for Philippine maritime power. In this future, South Korea is well positioned to remain a central partner, whether through additional shipbuilding, systems integration, or sustainment support.
The delivery of 12 warships from South Korea to the Philippine Navy stands as a milestone in both capability transformation and defense cooperation. It marks the Philippines' transition from a fleet constrained by age and scarcity to one increasingly defined by endurance, professionalism, and strategic relevance. At the same time, it shows South Korea's emergence as a trusted defense partner capable of shaping regional security outcomes through industry, diplomacy, and long-term engagement. More than a procurement success, this partnership reflects a shared commitment to maritime security, stability, and peace in the Indo-Pacific. In a region where naval power often signals intent, the Philippines and South Korea have chosen a path that strengthens deterrence while reinforcing cooperation. That balance between readiness and restraint may prove to be the most important capability of all. If you found this analysis valuable, share your perspective in the comments. Your insights help deepen the conversation and sharpen our understanding of evolving regional dynamics. Thank you, and we will see you soon in our next geopolitical discussion. A nation's strength lies not just in its army, but in the control of its seas. This paraphrase of Alfred Thayer Mahan, the great naval strategist, rings with profound relevance in today's Indo-Pacific geopolitical theater. In the post-colonial tides of the 20th century, Southeast Asia emerged from the shadows of empires, only to confront new maritime threats in the 21st. Disputed waters, piracy, and the growing specter of strategic rivalry in the South China Sea. The Philippines, an archipelago of over 7,600 islands, sits at the heart of these shifting currents, yet for decades has struggled with an aging navy and limited maritime defense capacity. Today, the Philippines is no longer alone in navigating these troubled waters. Enter South Korea, an economic and defense powerhouse whose transformation from war-torn nation to global shipbuilding leader tells a story the Philippines now seeks to emulate. As tensions ripple across the Indo-Pacific, South Korea emerges not just as a shipbuilder, but as a strategic partner, transferring modern naval assets, integrating cutting-edge systems, and offering a blueprint for maritime resilience. In this evolving regional order, the partnership between South Korea and the Philippines is more than transactional. It is transformational. It is this cooperation, rooted in shared democratic values and regional security goals, that forms the cornerstone of Manila's naval modernization and maritime defense strategy. When BRP Jose Rizal, FF-150, sliced through Philippine waters for the first time in 2020, it wasn't just a ship entering service, it was a symbol of rebirth. Built by Hyundai Heavy Industries, this 2,600-ton warship marked the dawn of a modern Philippine Navy. With its arsenal of SSM-700K Hyosung anti-ship missiles, a 76mm Oto Malara super rapid gun, torpedoes, and close-in weapon systems, CIWS, the Jose Rizal-class frigates brought multi-domain lethality to a fleet once limited to World War II-era relics. These ships are more than hull and steel, said a senior Philippine Navy official during the commissioning ceremony. They are the embodiment of our will to defend our waters and stand tall in the region. The frigate's versatility in anti-submarine warfare, ASW, anti-surface warfare, ASUW, and anti-air warfare, AAW operations, has redefined the Navy's ability to conduct long-range patrols and power projection, especially in contested areas of the West Philippine Sea. The commissioning of BRP Antonio Luna FF-151 in 2022 reinforced this transformation, signaling that the Philippine Navy is no longer content with a defensive posture. It is building a credible deterrent force. In 2019, a storied South Korean warship took on a new identity. Formerly ROKS Cheongju, a Pohang-class corvette with decades of service in the Korean Peninsula, was reborn as BRP Conrado Yap, PS-39, under the Philippine flag. Armed with sonar systems, 76mm and 40mm naval guns, torpedoes, and depth charges, BRP Conrado Yap was tailor-made for coastal defense and anti-submarine warfare, capabilities urgently needed amid submarine activity in the South China Sea. What was once a hand-me-down has become a catalyst, said a defense analyst. This isn't charity, it's strategic alignment. Looking beyond heavy-hitting frigates and coastal corvettes, the Philippines is also investing in agility and persistence. In 2022, a landmark deal was signed with Hyundai Heavy Industries for the construction of up to 6 2,400-ton offshore patrol vessels OPVs. These ships are designed not for battle, but for presence, for deterrence, for sovereignty enforcement. We need ships that can stay at sea, monitor our EEZ, conduct search and rescue, and support law enforcement. That's what these OPVs are for, said a Philippine Coast Guard official. Equipped with a 76mm gun, rigid-hulled inflatable boats, RHIBs, a helideck, and modular mission spaces, these vessels represent a critical upgrade in maritime domain awareness. From anti-smuggling operations to humanitarian assistance during typhoons, OPVs provide the soft power complement to the Navy's harder assets. A South Korean defense executive involved in the project summed it up best. These ships are not just assets, they're guardians of peace. The modernization of a Navy doesn't stop at hulls, engines, and missiles. It runs deeper, into the veins of digital systems and the minds of its sailors. South Korea understands this well. Its support to the Philippine Navy has gone far beyond delivering ships. It's about building an ecosystem of knowledge, command, and capability. In the nerve center of every modern warship lies its Combat Management System, CMS, the brain that sees, thinks, and directs action. Thanks to South Korean defense tech firms like Hanwha Systems and Elig Nex 1, the Philippine Navy now fields ships with integrated CMS platforms that can track, assess, and respond to multiple threats in real time. These systems are force multipliers, said a Philippine Navy officer aboard BRP Antonio Luna. Before, we relied on legacy sensors and outdated protocols. Now, we operate with real-time data fusion, advanced sonar, electronic warfare suites, and radar systems that talk to each other and to our allies. The Korean-built sensors, sonar arrays, and electronic tracking systems now embedded in the Navy's frontline assets allow for coordinated responses and enhanced interoperability with regional partners such as the US, Japan, and Australia. In an age of network-centric warfare, these systems are no longer luxuries. They are lifelines. But what use is advanced technology without the skill to wield it? Recognizing this, South Korea has taken a boots-on-deck approach to training Filipino sailors, officers, and technicians. Instructors from the Republic of Korea Navy and Korean defense companies have led intensive programs in gunnery, sonar operation, propulsion systems maintenance, and digital warfare navigation. Our doctrine has evolved, admitted a senior Philippine Navy training director. The Koreans didn't just hand us a manual and walk away. They've stood beside us on the bridge, in the engine room, even during live-fire drills. This partnership is redefining how Filipino sailors think about warfare, not as isolated maneuvers, but as coordinated, high-tech operations. One officer put it best: the training provided by our South Korean counterparts has been invaluable in operating these advanced systems. They've accelerated our transformation tenfold. Hardware is only as powerful as the people behind it. Recognizing this, South Korea has invested deeply in the human side of naval capability. From bridge operations to damage control, propulsion systems to weapons handling, South Korean trainers have stood shoulder to shoulder with Filipino sailors in a comprehensive capacity-building campaign. The training provided by our South Korean counterparts has been invaluable in operating these advanced systems, a Philippine Navy officer remarked. They didn't just train us, they transformed the way we think about naval warfare. Doctrine has evolved alongside technology. Filipino crews are now familiar with combat protocols that mirror modern Korean naval standards, ensuring both readiness and interoperability in joint exercises. What used to be a reactive force is becoming a thinking, agile, and adaptive Navy. The horizon of this partnership stretches into the deep. Talks are already underway for the potential acquisition of the KSS-2 diesel-electric submarines, a move that would mark the Philippines' historic entry into undersea warfare. But the vision doesn't stop there. Imagine a future where our submarines are built or serviced here in Subic or Cavite with Korean support, mused a Department of National Defense official. That's not a dream. That's strategic independence. Beyond submarines, both nations are exploring joint shipbuilding, shared logistics hubs, and partnerships in cyber defense and naval simulation. This isn't just modernization, it's maritime self-sufficiency through partnership. The implications of the South Korea-Philippines naval partnership ripple far beyond shipyards and training academies. They reach into the balance of power in the Indo-Pacific, the architecture of regional security, and the very core of bilateral diplomacy. With new ships, advanced systems, and trained personnel, the Philippine Navy is evolving from a coastal force into a credible maritime deterrent. These platforms offer operational flexibility in patrolling contested waters, quick response capabilities against transnational threats, and the endurance needed for extended deployments in the West Philippine Sea. In the words of one naval strategist, these assets don't just float, they signal. They tell the world the Philippines is serious about defending its waters. A more capable Philippine Navy enhances not just national security, but regional resilience. Its growing presence contributes to multilateral patrols, joint drills, and humanitarian missions, strengthening ASEAN cooperation and bolstering maritime rule of law. By investing in the Philippines' naval growth, South Korea is helping balance power in the South China Sea, while encouraging other Southeast Asian nations to follow suit. This partnership becomes a force multiplier for peace and stability in one of the world's most contested waterways. At its core, this naval partnership reflects a broader alignment of values, democracy, open trade, regional peace, and freedom of navigation. Defense ties have become a cornerstone of the Philippines-South Korea strategic relationship, reinforcing economic interdependence, trust, and long-term military interoperability. Our cooperation at sea mirrors our shared vision for a free and open Indo-Pacific, noted a South Korean ambassador. We are not just allies, we are builders of stability. As 2025 unfolds, the Philippines' naval modernization program, in partnership with South Korea, is reaching new heights. From ongoing ship deliveries to the latest defense agreements, the trajectory of growth is poised to strengthen the Philippines' maritime defense and regional security posture. Here's a closer look at the key developments and milestones. The Philippine Navy is on the cusp of further expanding its modern fleet. By early 2025, there is an expectation of the commissioning of a third Jose Rizal-class frigate, or the delivery of additional offshore patrol vessels, OPVs, reinforcing its operational reach and flexibility. The expansion of our fleet is moving ahead of schedule, remarked a senior officer from the Philippine Navy. These ships are not just additions, they are the future of our defense strategy. Simultaneously, the construction and sea trials of the Pohang-class corvettes and the OPVs continue at a steady pace. The steady progress underscores the growing capabilities of the Philippine Navy to safeguard its waters and enhance its presence in the Indo-Pacific. The strength of the South Korea-Philippines defense partnership is also reflected in the new memoranda of understanding MOUs that are being forged in early 2025. These agreements are focused on submarine technology and logistics support, which could signal the Philippines' transition into more advanced underwater warfare capabilities. Submarine acquisition is an essential part of our future defense posture, noted a Department of National Defense official. The agreement with South Korea represents a significant leap toward achieving strategic independence in undersea operations. Moreover, negotiations for additional ship transfers, including potential radar and missile system integrations, are already in progress, promising to elevate the Philippine Navy's technological edge. This collaborative effort seeks to ensure the continuous improvement of naval defense systems to counter emerging threats in the region. The year 2025 also marks the continuation of joint naval exercises designed to further deepen operational interoperability between the Philippines and South Korea. Exercise Pagkakaisa, a key joint drill, focuses on anti-submarine warfare, ASU, search and rescue, TSAR operations, and coordinated maritime patrols, allowing both forces to sharpen their combat readiness and tactical cooperation. Additionally, onboard training missions and staff exchanges between the two navies have deepened the collaboration. These engagements foster a better understanding of each other's naval doctrines, technologies, and tactics, which is vital in ensuring seamless operations and joint missions. The training and exchanges have been transformative for our forces, said a Philippine Navy officer. We are not only learning new techniques, we are becoming better partners, more capable of addressing shared security challenges. These ongoing developments in 2025 highlight a period of growth, refinement, and strategic alignment in the South Korea-Philippines naval partnership. With each ship commissioned and each defense agreement signed, the Philippines is solidifying its position as a key maritime power in Southeast Asia, with South Korea as a trusted partner in building a modern and capable naval force. The transformation of the Philippine Navy into a modern, capable maritime force has been significantly driven by South Korea's support. Through the delivery of Jose Rizal-class frigates, Pohang-class corvettes, and offshore patrol vessels, along with advanced systems integration and training, South Korea has enhanced the Navy's ability to protect its sovereignty and project power within its EEZ and beyond. As a result, the Philippines now boasts improved operational efficiency, situational awareness, and interoperability with allies. The Philippine Navy today is a much more capable force, noted a senior officer. We are securing our place as a responsible maritime power in the Indo-Pacific. Looking ahead, discussions on acquiring KSS-2 submarines and expanding joint exercises signal further growth. This partnership strengthens the Philippines' maritime defense and contributes to regional stability.
fostering a balanced power structure in the Indo-Pacific. The path forward is clear. South Korea and the Philippines are building a resilient and capable naval force, committed to safeguarding national interests and promoting regional security. Thank you for tuning into our channel. If you enjoyed the video, please remember to like, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel for more in-depth analysis of global issues.
And I'm happy to note that companies in the Republic of Korea have proven their quality, their reliability, and good faith in negotiations. Governance standards are kept high. Therefore, we look forward to working with you on a sustainable and sustained basis.
When a Navy orders warships, it is never just buying steel. It is buying time, options, and leverage. In December 2025, the Philippines made exactly that kind of decision, quietly signing a contract that carries consequences far beyond shipyards and balance sheets. Manila confirmed an agreement with HD Hyundai Heavy Industries, facilitated through South Korea's Defense Acquisition Program Administration, for the construction of 2 next-generation 3,200-ton guided missile frigates to be delivered by 2029. Valued at roughly $587 million, the deal marks one of the most consequential surface combatant acquisitions in Philippine naval history. On paper, this looks like a continuation of modernization. In reality, it signals something sharper: a deliberate shift from presence-based patrolling toward credible, networked deterrence. For decades, the Philippine Navy operated with limited air defense, modest sensors, and minimal ability to fight as part of a wider maritime system. These new frigates are designed to change that equation, bringing modern combat management systems, advanced sensors, and missile integration that allow ships not just to sail, but to see, track, and fight in contested waters. The timing is not accidental. Pressure in the South China Sea and the West Philippine Sea has intensified steadily, moving from diplomatic disputes to persistent gray zone encounters involving coast guards, maritime militias, and increasingly capable naval forces. In this environment, hull count alone does not deter. Capability does. Defense analysts cited by the Defense Post describe the deal as a significant leap in the Philippine Navy's ability to conduct modern, networked naval operations. A careful choice of words that points to interoperability, sensor fusion, and combat credibility rather than raw firepower.
In every mission, the Navy proves that maritime strength is measured by the character, clarity of mission, and the commitment of those who serve. That same commitment to duty was clearly seen in the West Philippine Sea and in other maritime outposts.
For the Philippine Navy, these frigates represent more than replacement tonnage. They reflect a doctrinal evolution, from reactive defense to forward-looking maritime control within an alliance-friendly framework. South Korea's growing role as Manila's defense supplier also matters. It signals diversification away from single-source dependence and alignment with partners that combine advanced technology, political reliability, and competitive timelines. In short, this is not a headline-grabbing arms race moment. It is something more durable. The Philippines is methodically building a surface fleet designed for the kind of maritime environment it now faces: crowded, contested, and constantly watched. These frigates will not change the balance overnight, but they quietly raise the cost of coercion, which is precisely what effective deterrence is supposed to do. Geography has always been the Philippines' greatest strategic asset and its most demanding responsibility. With more than 7,600 islands spread across vital sea lanes and an exclusive economic zone exceeding 2.2 million square kilometers, the country is, by definition, a maritime state. Its security, economy, and sovereignty do not begin at land borders, they begin at sea. This reality places the Philippine Navy at the center of national defense in a way few land-centric countries fully experience. That responsibility has only intensified in recent years. Tensions in the South China Sea, particularly around disputed reefs, shoals, and critical sea lanes, have shifted from episodic diplomatic disputes to constant on-the-water pressure. Foreign Coast Guard patrols, maritime militia vessels, and gray zone operations now occur with increasing frequency, testing response times and endurance rather than triggering outright conflict. In this environment, absence is interpreted as acquiescence. Presence becomes policy. The economic dimension is just as stark. More than 90% of Philippine trade by volume moves through sea lines of communication. Any disruption, whether from coercion, miscalculation, or crisis, directly impacts food security, energy imports, and industrial supply chains. It is in this context that a senior naval official's remark, "Naval presence equals sovereignty," carries real weight.
Modern surface combatants are not symbolic assets.
They are the platforms through which maritime law, deterrence, and national claims are physically enforced. The decision to acquire additional next-generation frigates is therefore not an isolated procurement, but part of a broader doctrinal shift under Horizon 3 of the Armed Forces of the Philippines Modernization Program, covering the 2023 to 2028 period. This phase marks a decisive transition away from decades of internal security focus toward credible external defense, a change driven as much by geography as by geopolitics. Horizon 3 places heavy emphasis on maritime and air domain awareness, integrated surveillance and sensor networks, and the ability to operate effectively alongside allies in a contested environment. These priorities reflect a recognition that modern defense